Hi, I'm Adam Robert Lewis, and you're listening to Brewing Actors Podcast, my chance to talk to actors, to hear their stories, what inspired their performances, and what decisions or relationships influenced their work. On today's episode.
Well, we'd had lots of dialogue lessons while I was in Manchester as part of the course to learn dialogue and to do plays. I mean, I did lots of plays. Sheila Barlow, who was my drama teacher there, used to really take us out and do plays together, which was wonderful. We did a lot of Lorca and stuff like that. Chekhov, she loved doing the Chekhov stuff and anything you could be bleeding hearts with, you know, it was great.
In this fifth episode, I continue my conversation with Philip Griffiths. In part one, we discussed Philip's journey through his training and his early career within opera. We pick up with Philip's first professional job outside of opera with Barry Stacey's Pantomimes, a stark contrast from his early days at Glynebourne. However, Philip's tenacity and perseverance shows his ambition to spur himself into a new direction within the arts.
I loved it. It was such an experience.
So your agent that you were obviously paying commission to your agent then. Mm-hmm. So what was she wanting you to do next? Was because as a musical theatre performer, the ultimate goal is to be in the West End, into a production. And now, of course, we've got long-running shows, and the goal is to be in one of those prestigious shows that have been running for X amount of years. Mm-hmm. What was she... Was it a very nurturing relationship, or was it just a case of, Philip, there's an audition, go?
Yeah, it was Philip, there's an audition, go. And she's used to send me out on all sorts of casting things as well, for different casting people for commercials and stuff like that. Because we are using the word commercial theatre here. It wasn't just musicals. It was anything.
Plays.
Anything. Actually, she didn't sort of encourage me to do plays more. It was more adverts, commercials.
Did you do any adverts?
No. I went up for a couple. I remember going to one place and I'd got my photographs sitting there being interviewed by this girl and all my photographs out and everything. And a guy came in who obviously was the boss man, and he looked over my shoulder while I was looking through these photographs. And he said, "Can I ask you, are you lucky?" I said, "Am I lucky?" He said, "Yes. Do jobs just fall in your lap?" I said, "Definitely not." I said, I've had to work really hard for all that I've achieved so far. Oh, in that case, not interested. I thought, oh, that's good.
Wow.
And I knew my photograph went straight in the bin. If I'd have said yes, I would have been a lie. Because nothing has come easy. It's all been really hard ever since I've decided to go out on this venture. It's been hard work. I've had to really concentrate on staying there. So I wasn't going to lie.
No.
So my photograph ended up in the bin.
In the bin. So Absolutely. What was the next audition you did? Were you still living in Lewis? Were you travelling?
Yeah, we've always lived here.
You've always
lived here.
Right.
The next one was for a musical operetta thing called The Desert Song with somebody called John Hanson. Now, John Hanson was a big name years ago. He did lots of radio stuff and My Desert is Waiting and all that sort of thing, The Red Shadow and stuff. And he was going to do another production of this. And Mildred sent me up to audition for it. And there's a part called Paul Fontaine in it. He's a French lieutenant, and he's the other love interest. So I went along to audition, and I sang on This Night of 1,000 Stars. And he said, "Can you just come down here and stand next to me?" And he looked immaculate. He'd got this beautiful suit on with a velvet collar, black, raven black hair, very tanned. And as I got closer up, I realised that the hair was really dyed black. He'd got masses of makeup on. There was dandruff all over the collar. I thought, oh my God. So he said, just stand next to me. And of course, I was the same height as him. So he said, yes, he'll be fine. So he said, I'd like to read with you. So he gave me some script, and because we had some dialogue to do together. And he gave some script, and I started, and he said, no, I'm going to read both parts in. I just want you to listen. I thought, oh, good. Right, this is going to be interesting. So he did it, both parts, and then he said, now you can speak.
So did you read both parts?
No, I didn't read both parts. I just read him, read Paul Fontaine, and he did The Red Shadow. So anyway, that was that. And he said, we'll be in touch. And I got the job. And it was 19 weeks of torture.
Did you have any experience of acting? I know there's obviously acting in opera, but it's very different from doing a straight play or a musical with a script. So were you confident in that area? Did you have to go away and have some lessons, or? Well,
we'd had lots of dialogue lessons while I was in Manchester as part of the course to learn dialogue and to do plays. I mean, I did lots of plays. Sheila Barlow, who was my drama teacher there, used to really take us out and do plays together, which was wonderful. We did a lot of Lorca and stuff like that. Right. Chekhov, she loved doing the Chekhov stuff, and anything you could be bleeding hearts with, it was great.
Right.
So I had experience of dialogue.
Yeah.
And some of the operas I'd done, Monostatos has dialogue in it.
Right, okay.
So I'd had dialogue, but that wasn't a problem or an issue.
So you got the job.
I got the job.
Was it a tour? It was a tour.
Yes, 19 weeks touring. Week here, week there, week ever. And it was the most badly organised tour ever. We were up in the north one minute, down in the south the next, up here, it's awful. And they
was it a big role you played?
No, not really. They wanted me also because they wanted me to cover John Hanson.
Right.
I was understudying him. And we were doing the first covers, and they were... The covering fee was absolutely ridiculous. It was something like £25 a week to responsibility and £25 a performance if you went on. And it's a huge role, The Red Shadow. And I wasn't happy with this. I said to Mildred, that's not really worth it. It's not worth the hassle. So I was in the middle of rehearsal one day, and John Swain, who was the company manager, came up and he said, "Are you serious about what you're asking for this covering thing?" I said, "Deadly." He said, "Well, I'm afraid they're not going to pay it." I said, "Well, in that case, I'm not doing it." So somebody else in the chorus got it.
Right.
But I thought, I'm going to have to stand up for myself eventually here. But that was slave labour. It really was.
Were you were never afraid to sort of speak your mind? You would always, or did you know the battles to pick and the battles not to pick?
Yes, I did.
Right.
I could sense when was a chance to do it. I mean, I didn't like working for this management. And I also discovered, while I was doing this tour, that the Evita company had tried to get me to come in after...
Again?
Yeah, after the first year. They tried to get me. They'd heard me in that audition. And David Caddick said, "Well, get Philip in because he'd be perfect for this." And Mildred, I'd had it written in my contract for Desert Song to say that if a West End show came up, I was to be released. And she didn't. She didn't want to do it because she had 4 people in it. Right. And she didn't want to upset the management.
I see.
So How
did you come to hear about the fact Evita was looking to try and get you to
when
audition?
I eventually got in there in 1980.
Right. Oh, I see. You didn't know then.
No. I still knew when I got in, and David was doing my rehearsal. I was going to be covering Magaldi as well. He said, "We tried to get you, after the first year, but your agent said you weren't available." So I rang her when I got home. I rang her and I said, "Mildred, this is me firing you. Because I've just discovered from my first rehearsal at Evita that they tried to get me like 2 years ago. That show opened in 1978 and we're in 1980, 81. And it's now I'm going into it. I could have been there in the West End nearly 2 years ago. And you said I wasn't available. And it was in my contract that I could be released.
Right.
So I fired her. We never worked again.
She never worked again?
I don't know whether she did or not, but she didn't. I didn't work for her again.
You didn't work for her. So Evita was your first West End show?
Yes.
That you did?
Well, I had done Kings and Clowns,
right,
and Biograph Girl with Frank Finlay, and Biograph Girl, both at the Phoenix Theatre. Kings and Clowns started at the Rep Theatre in Birmingham, and Biograph Girl started at the Gardner Arts Centre, which is part of Sussex University here down in Brighton. And we tried out in those 2 places before we moved into town. One lasted a month, the other lasted 6 weeks.
So you were used to the flops?
Yeah.
Did you ever go back to John Cox and sort of thank him? Or
timelessly. I mean, he's going to be at Glynebourne this year doing The Rake's Progress, which I was one of the original cast members. And in fact, Susan did the lead part and True Love in it on tour. But he's coming back to do it this season. So I'll see him. We bumped into each other actually in an art shop. And he's lovely, and I never stop telling him how grateful I am. And it's always, anything I do, I mention that.
Because it's a bitter pill to swallow, I think. Everybody at any part of their career probably will hit a crossroads, whether it'll be, I'm no longer doing understudy roles, I only want to play roles. So then you hit, how do you go about that? And you're always given advice. I always like to think of it as advice, not criticism. And some people are willing to act on it in their best interests, and other people look at it as a negative or a slur on them and kind of rebel against the advice. So I suppose you could have just gone, absolutely not, I'm going to stay at Glynebourne, and you wouldn't have done these great shows, which we now know as great shows. So it's interesting to know if you're still in contact with him. But
yes, I am. And I mean, you know, he used to have a house in Brighton. I don't think he has it anymore, so I used to see him quite a lot. But no, we went out for a celebratory meal,
right,
for me to say thank you.
Oh, that's good.
I was really so pleased that he did what he did, and he really put his neck out. And I don't think he's ever done that for anybody else, actually.
So Evita was your first big West End show in terms of it's a hit.
Yeah.
It's been running how many, 2-3 years?
Well, Jesus Christ Superstar was the longest running show at the time. It had done 8 years.
At the Palace?
At the Palace Theatre. And Evita was on its tails, but it only did 7.5 years.
Right.
So it didn't beat the record.
So you joined in the third year?
Yes.
Sort of?
Yeah, I did 4.5 years in it.
You did 4.5 years? And then... So you were the same role? It didn't change?
No, when I first went there, I understudied the son. There's a very, very small... I mean, it really is a small part. But it was the son. The family go to watch Magaldi perform at a nightclub because she wants to get on the escalator along Fame. And she meets up. There's a wonderful scene called The Art of the Possible. And she has all these highfalutin people that she has an affair with, and Magaldi's the last one, and is to try and get in the famous rut of everything. So I did that for a while, and then I covered Magaldi, as I say, and I went on to play that quite a lot towards the end of the run of the show because people were accumulating their holidays.
I see.
And then they said they weren't going to pay all that out, so you had to have the time off. But no, Evita was a great show, and of course working with Hal Prince.
Was he there a lot at the time?
A lot. He came a lot to it. And he used to come up onto the stage. I don't know if anybody's ever seen the Evita, the original Evita, but it had a big screen and benches. So we used to, the actors would just come on when it was beginners to come on. We'd just come on, dribble, drabble, sit at these benches. And Hal would be on there as well. And he'd be sitting, talking to everybody before the curtain went up. It was wonderful.
He wasn't starry in any way.
You knew he was a star director, but he was not starring.
He directed people.
Oh yes,
on a very human
one-to-one basis. He was everything one would dream of an American director to be. He was absolutely wonderful.
Did you, obviously, when you initially auditioned for Evita, you didn't know who Hal Prince was?
No.
Did you then go away and look him up and realise, God?
No, the first thing was when he came to see to look at the show, because he used to come to London very often because he was always doing other things here as well. It wasn't just Evita, because he did Kiss of the Spider Woman and stuff like that. You know, and he had masses of stuff going on, and he was a much younger man. But you didn't need to read up about him.
There was an aura
the persona
around him
when he came into the building. You know, and I'll never forget my first note session with him when I was doing The Sun, and we were all sitting in the stalls, and a guy called John Owen Edwards, who has also been a big influence on my career.
He was an MD, right?
Yes, he was the MD at the time, that's right. And we were all sitting in the stalls while Hal does his famous notes. And his notes, now I realise, never change. He doesn't add anything, take anything away. They are exactly what I did when I first put this show on, and I want them staying that way. So he got to our scene, the nightclub scene, and he said, "Who is the son?" Oh, my God. My heart started beating, and I put my hand up like this, and I was sitting behind John Owen Edwards as it happened, and he went, "You are swell."
Swell.
And John Owen Edwards turned around to me and he just went, "I'm going to lick my lips now," and just did a stroke like that. But it was wonderful. I mean, to have that comment...
From somebody like that.
And everybody turned around and went, doesn't often notice the sun.
So you felt, you'd sort of made a little nudge towards having a more of a not successful career, but in terms of more opportunities opening up to you.
Yeah.
After you did Evita.
What I realised now, at this stage of my career, what was happening then was it was building my confidence up in myself, knowing that somebody like that, with a small part like the sun, could say, you were swell. That means everything to you. It really does. You think, right, so if that's swell, I just need to keep going on this road.
Yeah, because they say there's no small roles, only small actors.
Exactly.
And I think sometimes, the smaller roles can get noticed. If it depends how you look at them. Some people go, it's only a small role, so I can't really be. Or you can have an opportunity to really not pull focus, but ensure that, the moments that you do have.
That you're noticed.
And actually, I find that the smaller roles are much harder to do than the bigger roles in some respects. Because if something goes wrong, or you fluff a line, or it doesn't, the first scene doesn't go as you wanted it, you've got a few scenes to redeem yourself.
Right. Yeah.
But with a small role, you have to hit it there and then.
Exactly.
There's no opportunity to redeem yourself. You just have to do that the following night.
That's right.
So you did Evita. You stayed for 4.5 years.
4.5 years, yeah.
Why did you stay so long? Was it just a case you just loved doing it?
Yeah, and I don't remember. Well, you see, as a family, we had our first baby. Anna was born in 1980. So we had responsibility. And although Susan was still singing, she was still going up to Scottish Opera, she was going to Covent Garden to sing, we needed some stability. And I think I probably stayed for that. I can't remember whether I went up for anything else in that time, to be quite honest, because once you're in your first big West End show, it's all time consuming.
It goes very quickly.
It does. And 4.5 years did go very quickly. And then there was rumour, because Stephanie Lawrence was playing Eva Perron, Evita, when I went into it. And I remember her coming onto the stage one day, because the Prince Edward Theatre holds 1,600 people. It's a big theatre. And as I say, because we all came on, you can see the audience. And I'll never forget, she was tying her scarf and she was surreptitiously looking into the audience. She said, we're going to be off next week, because there was an awful lot of red seats out there. Thank God it didn't happen. No, it kept it going. And they put a 6-month closure on the show because it had been a long runner. And to get maximum bums on seats for the remaining 6 months.
So were you paid those 6 months?
Oh, yeah, we were paid right up to the end. Right. In fact, because I did 4 years in the show, I qualified for what is known as redundancy, because you can only get redundancy if a show closes, and you have to qualify that by being in a show for 2 years or more. So I got 4 years redundancy. It wasn't much, but it was something.
Enough to tie you over.
Exactly. But in the meantime, chess was rumoured to be coming in, and that was all happening. And John Owen Edwards was going to be the musical director on it, and he asked me if I wanted to audition. And I thought, oh my God, this is wonderful to be asked if you want to audition.
And you were obviously aware of, obviously, Bjorn and
well, this was going to be
obviously not an ABBA musical.
This was going to be a huge. Right. This was a huge venture.
It was a big buzz.
The buzz was amazing because they'd already done the album, right. So that was out there, and now they were going to audition for the show.
That seemed to be the style of a lot of those early musicals that we now know are sort of legendary musicals, like Jesus Christ Superstar. That started as a concept. Evita, the same. Right. So the buzz. Phantom, to a certain extent, released a lot of songs before the show opened to create the buzz. They don't do that so much now.
No.
It's more on the production. So you were aware of the hype of chess.
Yeah.
What was the audition process like for that?
They were at the Prince of Wales Theatre, and I arrived at something like 8:30 in the morning to be given, those little tabs.
So it was an open audition?
Open audition, yeah. They wanted to do open auditions first before they did any agents auditions.
So why didn't you wait for your agent to get you an audition?
I hadn't got an agent at the time.
Right.
I was because I'd fired Mildred.
Once you fired Mildred,
yeah, that was it. She was out on her radio.
You didn't bother to get another agent.
No, I stayed doing it myself. So we had to arrive. You took a little tab with your number on it, and you had to come back at a certain time. They'd tell you what time to come back. I had to go back at 11. And I sang...
Night of a Thousand Stars?
No, I didn't actually. I sang a piece called Le Roi Dix by Lalo. It's an opera piece, but it's got some very lyrical stuff in it. So I sang that. And John Owen Edwards said, great, we need you to come back. So there were 4 or 5 recalls at the Fortune Theatre and dwindled down.
Woman in Black is?
Yeah.
It's a small theatre,
Absolutely,
right?
but that's where they were doing the recalls. And of course, you know, they were getting less and less people all the time. The final audition, if you know chess, there's a piece called Tal. It's all going against the notes.
Right.
And we had to sing it to see if your ear would stick on the note. And I did. I got in. So I was in the original cast of Chess.
So what is that like, being an original company member in a massive, big West End musical?
Well, it had, unfortunately, Michael Bennett, who was supposed to be in directing, he did chorus line, was ill. And I can't remember actually whether he died or whether he was too ill to do it, but he was taken off the show anyway. And a lot of his team, his American team, went with him. The only woman that was left was the designer. She stayed. So they had to find a new director, which was going to be Trevor Nunn, and a new choreographer.
Did you know Trevor at the time?
No. And Siobhan McCarthy and I, because we were both doing Evita at the same time, we were both on holiday when all this happened from Evita, and he wanted to meet the cast that Michael Bennett had engaged. He wanted to meet them to see if there was, you know, he could work with everybody. We were the only 2 people that he didn't meet. So we came back from our holiday thinking, had we got a job? Right. And apparently they said, no, he was more than happy with what Michael Bennett cast. Everybody was absolutely fine, and Trevor was going to direct it. And Molly Malloy was the woman that was engaged to be the choreographer. So we all went out to Cricklewood, to some film studios out in Cricklewood to start rehearsals. Huge place, most difficult to get to from here. But yeah, we rehearsed out there for 12 weeks. It was a long rehearsal period. And we eventually came into the Prince Edward Theatre to start putting it on there.
Right. So you did Evita at the Prince Edward, and you did chess at the Prince Edward.
Yes, for 2.5 years.
Did you were you in the same dressing room? Or did you move around? You did?
Yeah, I was in the same room. Same spot.
Is that why you're so territorial over your spot at Phantom now?
Yes.
So you just don't like change?
I don't like change. I haven't moved about a bit in Phantom.
Yeah, you are, but you're in the same spot now.
Yeah.
We're going to put a plaque above the wall.
Won't be tied anybody else trying to sit there.
I've experienced that, don't worry. So you did, so that's Evita?
Actually, the thing was, because of this small bit that I did in Evita, you know, the noticing, they gave me a very small bit to do in chess, where the Russians, they've all had a little bit too much to drink. And we've had this big male ensemble number. And at the very, very end, John Owen Edwards said, Philip, you've got this amazing falsetto in your voice. He said, we'd like you to be the last person. Everybody else is going to collapse. And you're going to be the last person right at the front of the stage to go, and collapse.
Right.
And he said, now, if you can do that 8 shows a week. And that's what I did. I did.
So... You didn't understudy any of the bigger roles?
I understudied, there's the Embassy Lament number, Oh my dear, how boring, he's defecting. Mm-hmm. And when they did the album of that, they used a group of singers. I can't remember what they were called now, but they did it. There was a quartet or 6 of them or something. But the stage version was only 2 people. So I understudied both of those, Tom Arandola and myself. We understudied both of them. And one particular day, I had to, and they split it. So, oh my dear, how boring, he's defecting.
Oh, right.
So one day I was doing that, and the next performance I was doing the lower one.
Right.
So it's really like,
right.
But it was great fun.
Right.
I loved, chess was a brilliant show to do. I don't think it was brilliant in its staging. Trevor had an impossible task. He was taking on all the set designs and everything, and it was impossible. I don't know what Michael Bennett would have done with it, but it would have been very interesting to see.
So chess closed, right?
Yeah.
After how many years?
2.5 years.
2.5 years. Mm. And then What did you do in between? Were you out of work for a long period of time?
No, not at all.
In between those shows?
No, not at all. One literally led on from the other.
So you finished chess and then auditioned for...
We started rehearsals for...
Jerry Zach's...
Evita finished and we started rehearsals for chess. Right. And then the same when chess finished, we started rehearsals or started auditions for Anything Goes.
Was it this production of Anything Goes? Has it been at the National? It's not that version.
No. It's the one that was at the Lincoln Center in America.
Right.
And the only person that came over with it from that was Howard McGillen. He was who was the Phantom. He was the Phantom, on Broadway.
Yeah.
And he was playing Billy Crocker.
Right. So you auditioned for that?
Yeah.
Who was the MD on that?
John Owen Edwards.
Of course he was.
Yeah.
So was he becoming a sort of champion of yours?
Yes.
And somebody that he wanted to work with?
I did masses of stuff for John.
Outside the shows?
Yes, we did lots of recordings for John Yap for the, what was the can't remember the label now.
They were sort of highlights of musicals.
Yes, That's Entertainment or something like that they were called. But we did full musicals as well as highlights. It was the full musical. We did 36 of them all together.
Because I think there's one of Phantom with Claire Moore that I listened to.
I was on that one.
You were on that? Yeah.
But we did masses of them and rehearsed all at Abbey Road, in the famous studios in Abbey Road.
So, obviously, we have to touch on Phantom. Mm-hmm. And after Anything Goes, correct me if I'm wrong, but you spent 10 years at the same theatre.
10 years at the Prince Edward.
Mm-hmm. Evita, chess, Anything Goes. Mm-hmm. And then Anything Goes, did you stay with Anything Goes up until it closed?
Yes, because Elaine Page and Bernie Cribbins left after a year and they recast it. And it only, you could feel that it was
not the same.
Yeah. Mm. I don't know say anything about who was doing it. It's nothing to do with that really, but it's just that it had outlived its usefulness really.
What was it like working with Elaine Page?
Oh, fantastic! And
she was at the sort of height of her fame at the time.
Yes, just wonderful. I adored her. I covered the captain in it, and I had to go on a few times with her. And she's just the most hilarious person. The captain's hat was too big for me, and she took one look at me on stage. She did a double take on stage, and she did this. She saw me after. She said, "Where did you get that hat?" That's the one I was given. She said, "Well, it's not good enough." And it was somebody else's hat. They just plonked on my head. Oh, right. So she made sure that they got me another one for the next performance. I loved her. I mean, I've done chess with her as well. And then Anything Goes.
So had you auditioned for a lot of other stuff while you were at the Prince Edward for 10 years? Or was it just a case nothing really else?
No, I did do auditions for other stuff, but I was either not suitable for it or I wasn't available to do it or whatever. But... no, I really.
Did you ever audition for Les Mis?
Well, I was asked if I wanted to audition for Les Mis, but at the time it was the full version of it, and it was terribly late.
I see. So you wouldn't
have got
home
on a train
to
at
Lewis.
midnight, leaving London at midnight, and getting home here at 1:45.
So that right.
I said no thanks.
So how did Phantom happen?
I was doing Anything Goes, as you said, and we were on holiday. We'd gone, the four of us, to Wales for a holiday, and a lovely guy that sat next to me in the dressing room, Anthony Lynn from Swansea. While I was away, they put the notice up on the show. Now, you only get 2 weeks' notice of a show closing.
Right.
Not like Evita doing 6 months. Mm. This had 2 weeks. And he rang me. He rang the hotel that we were staying at. And he said, "I don't know how to tell you this, but they've put the notice up and the show is closing in 2 weeks." So we shortened our holiday. I came straight back here and started investigating what was going on. He said they are actually looking for people at Phantom.
So you were aware of Phantom, obviously.
Yeah, because it had opened the same year as Chess. We opened in the April, and Phantom opened the October.
Obviously, not to state the obvious, but it says opera in the title. Did you think, oh, maybe I should be doing that? Or were you...
I did think, what a shame I've not auditioned for that. But Chess came up first, and John wanted me to do it.
Right. Was John... Owen Edwards linked to Phantom at that point? No.
He had been linked to it at some point, but before I joined it.
Right.
Because I joined in the 4th year, and he'd been there before that.
Right.
But
So they were looking for
they
somebody.
were looking for somebody, but when I was told what they were looking for a Phantom cover and a Raoul cover. And I was neither of those. No.
which you were.
But I rang Sharon Jones up, who's the company manager.
How did you know Sharon?
Well, I'd met her vaguely somewhere. I can't remember where, actually. But I rang her up and I said, look, I'm in Anything Goes is finishing. Do you think there's any point in me coming to audition? Yeah, she said, come down. Jeff will be here and Anthony Inglis, Jeff Ferris and Anthony Inglis. Jeff was the original resident director,
right.
and Anthony Inglis was the musical supervisor. And Martin Yates, who was the MD at the time, and he'd been my MD in Swansea. My last pantomime was at the
Right.
Grand in Swansea. So he was MDing.
So he was aware of you.
Yes, absolutely. So she said, yeah, come down. My matinee day at Anything Goes was a Thursday. They're auditioning here on Thursday. Come down after your matinee. So I discovered that Anthony Lynn and a guy called Darryl Knock were both coming down. Oh, no, not Darryl Knock. Mark Insco. They were both
Right.
coming down to audition for this Phantom and Raoul cover. I thought, right, well, I don't want them to know I'm doing that. So they left the building and they went one way down to Her Majesty's. I left the building and I came down a different way. And I stood at the end of the road because I don't like people knowing what I'm doing.
You're
you
very
see.
private about auditions,
Very,
right?
Absolutely. I can't bear people knowing. So I watched them come into the building. I thought, right, well, they've gone in through the stage. They've gone to the Royal Room, which is where they normally show people. I'll go in. And I went down to the loos downstairs.
Right.
And I told the guy in the stage door, when it's my turn to come up, give me a shout. Now, Howard Harrison, who'd been stage manager at Evita, was now the production administrator at Cameron Mackintosh. So he was there as well.
Right.
So he came and said, Philip, we're ready for you. You can come now. It's safe. Everybody's gone. So I sang She's Only a Woman to Me by Billy Joel, which is the last song in the world you'd sing
Why
for
didn't
fun.
you sing an opera?
Because I'd auditioned for Aspects of Love. That was one show that was looking for people. And I'd sang it for that. I thought it was more suitable for that than it was for Phantom. But I thought I can't be bothered learning anything else or picking anything else at short notice. So I just sang that again. It's got a couple of top A's in it. So I sang that. Anthony Inglis didn't know what it was about. I sang it and he said, okay, that's fine. He said, I'm going to give you some scales to do. I said, I don't do scales. I said, I'm hopeless singing scales. He said, we will need to hear your top C for this purpose. Right. So I said, well, I tell you what.
Was a top C very comfortable for you?
Well, it's not really. And I don't sing a full throttled tenor top C.
It's a lighter sound.
Mine is what they call a pharyngeal sound. It's a combination of how far I can go in chest and how far I can bring the head down and
meet
mix
in the middle.
two. So I said, the opening line that the tenors have to sing in Evita starts on a top C.
Right.
Requiem aeternam dona Evita. So I did that. And in fact, the pianist, I don't know what the pianist played, but it certainly was higher than a top C.
Right.
And Anthony Inglis said, no, that's fine, that's fine. He said, it doesn't need to be beautiful. I mean, I've actually told him about this because obviously he'd
Does
forgotten.
he remember?
Yeah,
Probably.
no, he doesn't remember. He
probably
said,
not.
did I really say that? I said, yes, you did. It doesn't have to be beautiful, that's fine.
More from Philip in a moment. Today is a great day to start your own podcast. Whether you're looking for a new marketing channel, have a message you want to share with the world, or just think it would be fun to have your own talk show, podcasting is an easy, inexpensive, and fun way to expand your reach online. Buzzsprout is hands down the easiest and best way to launch, promote, and track your podcast. Your show can be online and listed in all major podcast directories within minutes of finishing your recording. Podcasting isn't hard when you have the right partners, and the team at Buzzsprout is passionate about helping you succeed. Join over 100,000 podcasters already using Buzzsprout to get their message out to the world. You'll get a great-looking podcast website, audio players that you can drop into other websites, detailed analytics to see how people are listening, tools to promote your episodes, and more. Following the link in the show notes lets Buzzsprout know we sent you and gets you an Amazon gift card if you sign up for a prepaid plan and helps support our show.
So Howard Harrison said to me, Philip, can you just hang on up there a minute? I need to come and have a chat with you. So we came up onto the stage. He said, look, they want to offer you a job, but the only thing we've got to offer you at the moment is swing. Would you be prepared? I said, yeah, of course I would.
You didn't know what that meant, though, did you?
Well, I did, because I'd sort of swung on chess.
Right.
Tom Arundel and I were we were floating swings.
Right, I see.
We did things when people, for instance, the one thing I really enjoyed doing on chess was singing "Nobody's on nobody's side." So if anybody was off in that, I
love it.
Oh, I loved singing that because it meant my voice was doing anything you wanted to.
Right.
So I'd had a bit of swinging experience. So they said, that's all that's going. Would you be interested? I said, yeah, of course I would. But they said, please don't say anything. But that's the only time I've ever done an audition and been offered the job on the spot.
What did that feel like? I would love that to happen these days.
I was
but
over
it just
the moon.
doesn't.
I mean, you know, I'd had all these shows, one after the other. And this was, again, but a completely different management. Because
Hal Prince wasn't involved in those auditions.
Not at that point, no.
Right.
No, he used to come in just to do Phantoms and Christines and Rowells. Mind you, he does get involved with them as much as he can when he could. Unfortunately, he's not with us anymore.
What... So you hadn't seen the show?
No.
But you obviously knew the hype and the buzz around the show, right?
Absolutely.
So
I knew the hype and the buzz about it because, there were a lot of people in it that I knew.
Right.
That I was in chess, and we used to meet up to have the Stockpot in.
Oh, I see.
To have lunch together.
No longer there.
They were no longer there, exactly. And Alan Hatton, who was he'd been our original stage manager on chess, had moved to Phantom. He was also a stage manager at Glynebourne when I was there. So, you know, all these people, you keep coming across them all the time. And so many people that have been in the chorus at Glynebourne were now doing musical theatre because it was becoming the norm.
Right.
There wasn't that much work out there.
For opera.
For opera.
So you made the transition probably at the
Before
right time.
Everybody else.
Before it became oversaturated with people.
And I'd also made a bit of a name for myself as being a reliable person. And, you know, I was a tenor. There's always need for them.
So you joined the show as a swing.
Yeah, for 6 months.
For 6 months. And then what was next?
Well, I understudied the...
You watched the show, right? You went to see the show.
Yeah,
what did you think of the show when you first saw it?
I went to see it on the way... After being offered the job, I thought I better go and see it now. And I went to see them a matinee on a Wednesday. Sat on the sound desk. I was absolutely blown over by it. I mean, I'd never seen it or knew anything about it, really, apart that it was a success. But it was an amazing show to watch.
Did you think, though, sitting there all those years ago, that you would somehow still be in the show today?
No.
Was it a show that when you watched, you thought, my God, I could do this day after day after day?
This is something
This is the show for you.
This is something I definitely want to be part of.
And had you, at that initial point of watching the show, did you sort of going, oh, I'd love to do that, I would love to do that?
Well, the thing is, it had been picked for me, really, because I was understudying Piangi, which I was not a Piangi, physically. I mean, you know... Because
it was funny to look at.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I enjoyed the camaraderie of the part. It's a great part to do. It's a lovely part to do. And you've got those lovely manager scenes. You get the heroic tenor bit of the Hannibal and stuff like that. But I mean, when I came on stage with a huge bodysuit on, I mean, I was about 3 foot smaller than everybody else. I mean, it was ridiculous, but I enjoyed doing it. I played the part as much as I could, and I did that for quite a few years, actually.
So when you first joined, you only understudied Piangi?
No, I covered Ray as well.
Ray as well. And, you know, to be I can't think of Ray now without thinking of you. So, really... Even having done it as an emergency cover, I'm essentially just playing you. And I absolutely love it. I think any mannerism that you do, I could just try and get in. But you didn't cover the auctioneer.
No.
So you joined as a... How did you find swinging the show? Because it's... you know... People go, it's a breeze in terms of other shows that you can swing, like Les Mis or something else. For somebody like me, who's failed the swing module at drama school, I thought this is going to literally be the beginning and the end. So did you take to it like... I know you said you did something similar in chess.
Yeah, not
But
quite
there's-
to the extent of
these
swinging
are-
on this.
there's- for the male swings, there's a lot to do.
Yes, it was mainly getting to grips with the changes, the costume changes that you would have to do, because, you know, you could have 4 people off and you've got to work out what are the important things to do to keep the show running. And at the time, there were only 2 male swings.
Which was you and Scott Davis.
Scott Davis. I mean, 2 Scott
So
Davis.
did he join with you? Or
No,
did...
he joined 6 months before me. He
Right.
joined in the April
Right.
of 1989. Yeah, no, 1990, sorry. 1990 was the year I went in. And then I started rehearsing in September 1990.
Which is the year I was born.
Very well, you see. Glad you got that in. You don't need to ask how old I am now.
So you went after 6 months. You then became you dropped the swing. Did you?
Yeah, because the guy that I was had been swing, Adrian Scott. He and I went back Glynebourne days again. Susan and he had been at the Opera Centre together. He wanted to leave. He'd been there from day one, and he wanted to go and do other things.
And he was Ray.
He was Ray. He'd been a swing, and he'd moved up to Ray. But Jeff said that he didn't want him to go until they could find the right person to think, because Hal Prince's concept is pictures.
Yeah.
He does everything by pictures. And I remember somebody telling me, well, unless you fit the costumes, Hal Prince won't be interested. And your costume is there. If you fit it, you'll be on. Well, Adrian and I were exactly the same. We used to dress the same when we were at Glynebourne. We turn up in the same shirts and jeans and all the rest of it. So we were very similar. Yeah. What was I talking about? You see, I've done it.
Very similar. How you moved from a swing to...
Oh, yeah. And then they said, so it'll only be for 6 months swinging, because then you're going to move in, because now we found you.
Right.
Adrian can go and you can move into the part.
So you literally went from a swing to the role.
Yeah.
It seems years ago, not so much now, but there seems to be far more of that tradition of going from understudy to the role. They seem to be promoting people within the company a lot more. Was that something you saw on other shows?
No, not really. I mean, when they recast chess, there was always new people coming into that.
So you after 6 months you were then playing Ray full time.
Yeah.
And you loved that.
Yeah. Perfect. It's a gift of a part.
It is.
It's me to a T. And it means that it's ageless as well. I mean, you know, when I joined this company 30 years ago, I was a certain age, and I'm there and I'm still playing it.
Were there elements, you know, obviously as an understudy, when you go on, you're always like, you know, am I the role material? And I probably every understudy feels that way. When you were going on as Ray, were people going, oh, you're very good. Oh, you're very good.
I don't know. I just, because I always go by what the director...
Right.
His reaction.
So had you had an opportunity to do Ray in front of Hal Prince before they give you the role?
No, I hadn't. No, I think
they give it to you.
They gave it to me, and then Hal would have been coming in the next cast changes, because he used to come virtually for every cast change, especially if they were looking for Phantoms, Rounds, and Christines.
Right.
He really wanted to see them, but then he'd sometimes get involved with the juries and the managers and stuff as well.
So how did you get the auctioneer cover?
I was understudying it. It was given to me as an understudy. Not at the beginning. This was sort of like later on. And then somebody was leaving. I think it was, what was his name? Forgotten his name. But he was moving up to do Fearman, because he was covering Fearman, and he was moving up to do that. And I just moved up into the...
So did you get the role?
Yes, I got the role.
So you're slowly but surely making yourself a really, really
Kevin
busy
Wainwright.
plot.
It was Kevin Wainwright playing it.
Right.
And he was going up to play Fearman. He was covering Fearman, but he was moving up to play the part. So I got to play...
It seems to be a tradition very early on in Phantom that's what they did.
Yeah.
You know, you to Ray, obviously him to Fearman. There's some other people who have gone from an understudy Rowls to Phantoms.
That's right. I think it helps as well because you get to know the show so well. It helps from the director's point of view when you know the show, rather than bringing all these people from outside that don't know it, and they've got to start learning from the beginning.
But that doesn't happen now.
No.
In some cases it does, but it does seem to be very early on. That seemed to be what they were doing.
That's right.
Sort of like a training ground to train you up to And then you do get it really in your body then.
Yeah, that's right.
So you're then doing Ray Auctioneer.
Yeah.
Which is a nice little busy plot.
It's a nice plot.
Were you a fop at that time?
I was the jeweler.
So you were literally Ray Auctioneer, Ray fop.
Yes.
Literally any track.
Absolutely.
The Philip Griffiths show.
First act was non-stop.
Mainly you.
Yeah.
So did you want to go up for any other roles? Did you?
Oh yes, I desperately wanted.
When did the sort of urge to go up for the Andre come in?
Well, that must have been about 1997.
Right. So you'd been in the show 7 years.
Yes, and I kept asking if I could be seen for Andre, but they wanted to keep that for people coming in. It's the carrot thing again. Anyway, I managed to pester enough to get heard, and Anthony Inglis took me up to the Dome with our rehearsal room at the top and went through the entire part with me vocally. And he said, well, there's no doubt you can sing it. I just worry about the fact that you're quite slim and this sort of thing, because the other guys perhaps that had been playing it were bigger physically than me.
Right.
Anyway, they decided to give me the second cover, and I've been covering it ever since. But it is a part I would love to play. I really would. It's the sort of part. It's like putting a glove on, and it
does
fits.
fit you like a glove.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And even when you look, I've scanned through the original costume Bible that Maria Bjornsson created, and when you look at the original image of Ray, it's you.
Yes, exactly. Manager, I think they've helped me do that in the costume.
Of course.
They've made the costume stand out. And
I mean,
the sideburns and the moustache and all the rest of it, and the bowler hat on the slight angle and the slightly jaunty angle that I wear it on. But yeah, no, it's important to.
And obviously, we did a project with each other a few weeks ago, which obviously we don't discuss.
Yes.
But I think they went back to those original.
That's right.
Drawings, and it was. I even said to you in the morning, my God, you look exactly like that drawing.
Yeah.
So did you... One of the things I wanted to ask you, and I think it's a sort of stigma in the industry, or certainly it gets commented on a lot, is, oh, you're still at Phantom? Or you're still there? And somehow it's almost like, oh, well, once you get into one of these long-running shows, it's easy. It just becomes like any other job. And in actual fact, to maintain a contract for such a long time is hard work. Far harder than going away and coming back. Did you anticipate you would stay for so long?
I've always thought that if I could get into a show that was a long-running show, I'd stay with it. Because I just want the security.
Stay with it until you got bored, or would you just you wouldn't allow yourself?
I would never allow myself to get bored. I could never do that, and I certainly have never been bored doing anything that I've done. And I mean, people say, "Oh, how do you do it?" I would do it for any show that I was on. I couldn't.
Where does that come from, though?
I think it's coming from a very hard-working farm background. That is hard, and you know. Farming in the days that I'm talking about, when I was a kid, there wasn't the technology that we've got now. Everything was hard work. Physically hard work, and so farming is still hard, but it's a lot easier than it was. So I think coming back from that, you know, having to get out there and do it because it doesn't do it on its own.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to butt you up, but I've been in the show. This is my 4th year. And people say to me, you're still there, but you all stay for different reasons. I stayed because my goal was to try and get the Phantom cover, and I had made a pact with myself that I would stay. And people would say, you need to go away and come back. And there was just something in me that said, don't do that. Because when you're not around, it's easy for somebody else to fill your position.
You get forgotten.
And that might be totally wrong. And there's pros and cons to all these things. Of course there is. But I think for me, I just thought I have to stay. But the commitment, and I've been in I'm obviously slightly younger than you.
Slightly.
But the energy and the commitment that you bring to the stage every day makes me want to work 10 times harder. And I think when you work with people like that, it's refreshing, it's exciting, and yeah, you've got more energy and a very busy track. You do a lot more than, other tracks and other things in the show, and you still bring a level of commitment to it. But do you ever think, should I have gone away and done something else? Do you ever regret that you hadn't gone away and done something? Is it a show that you thought, you auditioned for during that period? Mm-hmm. And
I mean, I've done auditions.
Since you've been at
Since
Phantom?
I've been at Phantom, yeah. I did auditions for Martin Guerre. I did auditions for the producers. Or I wanted to audition for the producers. I never got to do it.
Would you have left if you had got those shows?
Probably, because there was the part of Carmen Gia that I really wanted to go for, and I thought I was absolutely dead right for it, but I think the casting people had other ideas. So I didn't even get to the audition stage of that. But yeah, I probably would have done. Because it was such a great production, but it didn't last, you see. Phantom has lasted.
So you're now going into your, 30th year?
You're in
your 30th
it'll
year?
be my 30th birthday in October of this year, yeah.
Does it feel like you've been there for 30 years?
Mind you, as I say, I've done so many things in the show. I've been swing, I've done this, I was a resident director for 2 years looking after it, although I was still understudying Piangi and Andre, so I was still a member of the company and had to go on and do those roles, even though I'd been rehearsing all day, putting a company in or rehearsing understudies. And I did enjoy looking after the show and in working with people. I really did enjoy it, but I don't think I'd want to do it again.
I think some people, when they've got a role in a show, you can get slightly territorial about it. And obviously you've got understudies, you've got 2 understudies, or a 3rd understudy in my case, because I'm 3rd auctioneer from the back, 4th removed.
And 3rd Ray.
3rd Ray, emergency Ray. But obviously, when I said that I would like to go up for the auctioneer, because they needed you couldn't have been more supportive in terms of saying, let's do it. Mm-hmm. And I was surprised, I must admit, because I thought maybe you would be... Yeah, maybe you would be territorial about it. You're getting on my turf.
What the difference is, I could see that you would do a very good job of it. There's no doubt about that. And I wouldn't be quite so helpful or encouraging to somebody that perhaps I felt wasn't ready for it or right for it.
Have you've been there 30 years now, and I suppose... Even if people say to me, I need some advice about X, Y, Z, I say, go speak to Philip Griffiths. Is that, I don't know, a position that has been forced upon you, I suppose. But it's like that thing, send the elevator back down. You've gone through your sort of years of hurdles and that's why we're doing the podcast now, because it's very interesting for people who are at those crossroads or are not sure, have gone into one industry and it's not for them, and how do they get to another one? Perseverance. Do you enjoy helping people?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's always something you can hand down and pass on. I don't give it unless I'm asked.
I would call you my guru.
Well,
I think I've run everything past you.
I have gurued a few people. I'm quite choosy who I do guru, I must admit. But I don't push
it.
No, I don't offer it. If people come to me and ask, that's fine. But I don't go out there and sort of say, you want to listen to what I've got to say.
Yeah. When the 25th anniversary came round, did you think they would recast you for that?
I did. Well, so many people were being recast.
Yeah.
I didn't get the auctioneer, but I couldn't do both of them because of where they placed me to do Ray. I couldn't do it.
Were you pleased that they asked you to do Ray?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It was wonderful.
I thought probably 80% of the roles they did recast for that
that's right.
performance.
I didn't know until the very last minute, though, that I was going to be doing it. But yeah, I was thrilled.
Was that a lovely experience to do?
Exactly. I mean, the Albert Hall, 250 people on stage, a whole set, and no, it was great. It was very good.
So you celebrate 30 years in October, and it doesn't seem like you want to slow down.
No.
You want to keep going.
Yeah, absolutely.
Obviously, you travel every day from Lewis, and the same thing. Is there anything you feel like you want to achieve now in the show?
Well, I've got a few goals, you see.
Right. What are they?
Well, right. Well, to get my 30th year, which will be this October this year, that'll be my 30th birthday. In 2021, I think it's the show's 35th birthday.
Yeah.
In 2022, it's my 50th year in the business and my 50th year of marriage.
Right.
And then after that, it'll be working until I get to 75. And then I'll think about what I'm going to do.
Did you think you'd still be working at
No,
70?
I don't know. I really didn't know. I set out to stay in something as long as I could, but this has been more than I could possibly have hoped for, really. I mean, seriously.
And the Guinness World Record, how did that come about?
Well, I would just like to say that I didn't do that for myself.
Right.
I'm not that egotistical.
Right.
No, there was Ollie Saville was sitting next to me. He was a Raoul cover and he sat next to me in the dressing room. And when we got to my 25th year in the show, he said, "This must be some sort of record, you know." I said, "Well, I don't know." He said, "Well, have you ever found out?" I said, "Well, no, I wouldn't, would I?" He said, "Well, what if we found out for you?" I said, "Well, if you do, that's entirely up to you." So him and Harry Slythe, who was on the crew, they, between them, sort of started all the process going. And they discovered that you can pay quite a lot of money to get it done fast track. Or you can go the slow route, which can take anything up to 6 to 8 months to do. And I said, well, I'm not wanting anybody to put in money into this, but if we go the slow route, fine. And they did, and I got the Guinness World Record holder for being the longest person in the same show in the West End or something.
Right. And you still hold that title?
I still hold that title.
Well,
I'm going to have to
overtake you now.
Well, I'm going to have to update it when I get to my 30th to say so it's 30 years, not 25 years. I can't imagine anybody is going to overtake it. Can you?
No, I can't imagine. No, I don't know anyone else.
Any show will last long enough.
Do you think Phantom will last another 30 years?
I have no visions of Phantom ever coming off. It feels, when we're standing on that stage, you know what it's like when we're standing on that stage every night, and you feel that cheer that you get from the audience. It's iconic. It's an iconic show. I can't imagine it ever stopping.
Yeah, the only thing that upsets me is that the sort of, yes, they hand it down, but the custodians of that wonderful show, we've lost Hal, we've lost Gilly. It's interesting, Maria. When we go back, you know, I always try to go back and look at the very early people in the show, because they are quite close to what was originally the concept.
That's right.
And that's, I think, the beauty of Scott Davis still being involved, yourself, Ellen Jackson, these people. And I think I'm glad that they are still employing people, not only of that age, but, you know, continually employ and want the show to be various ages, because the industry is getting younger.
Yeah,
Do you
exactly.
ever feel like,
Well, yeah, we did go through a patch a few years ago where younger people were being brought in. We had a new resident director who wanted to bring younger people in, and it just doesn't work. It was quite obvious. You can't. The
Ray A seems to me is an older air about him, as the wardrobe mistress and as a couple of the other roles.
Yeah, I mean, it's very much, it's the character that you put across, really. I mean, not so much the age thing, it's the character, it's that sharpness of him, because he's quite a tyrant.
Yeah.
Those magic words of quite a tyrant means that you've got that's your blueprint. And the wardrobe mistress, Ellen, you know, she's the perfect sort of stature for it.
So what would you say to somebody looking to get into this industry? Sort of like Philip's words of wisdom. Because you're full of wisdom.
Well,
and obviously we obviously have a relationship outside the podcast and outside the show. But for those people who don't know you and might not have the pleasures of working with you at Phantom, what would be your key bit of advice for those people looking to pursue this career?
Well, to come into a West End show, first of all, you must know your craft. You must be secure in your technique of stuff, with your singing, your acting, your movement. It's got to be absolutely tip top, because it's a challenge. It really is, and there's a lot of competition out there. When we do open auditions, I couldn't believe when we did open auditions, hundreds of people turned up, but you can guarantee out of a whole day we only recalled 9 people.
And based on what? Their preparation?
Yeah, exactly. Well, they're just not right. They don't know what the show is about. You must always find out what the show is about. Go and see it. I mean, I didn't see Phantom, but I was just told by people that knew me and knew what my performance was like that I'd be right for it. So I took them at their word. It's like when people said to me, "Will you be absolutely right for Glynebourne?" They were right. I was absolutely right for it. So you've got to know the show. I mean, when I would go and see something before I go into it, if it's a show that's in existence beforehand. It's difficult if it's a new show because it's a new concept. But you trust the casting people then to put you in, that you're right. But know your craft and be confident in yourself so that you're not going to fall at the first hurdle. And have absolute, put the blinkers on.
Yeah, because you say that to me a lot. If you're finding it a bit tough for whatever reason, put the blinkers on.
Absolutely.
Get on with the job. Thanks to my guest, Philip Griffiths. Since recording this podcast, we are both now at home and living the reality of the coronavirus. So I caught up with Philip on the phone.
Hello, Bella. How are you?
Shomai, Philip. Well,
Lovely day.
Lovely. Are you self-isolating?
I am indeed. I've just done my 4-mile walk. You know, the bit of exercise you're allowed to do in the day. Well, I've just done it.
Yeah. Well, I just wanted to give you a call because I know we said that we were going to play a little track from your album that you made called Songs of My Heart. And I forgot to ask you a little bit about the song. So I thought while we are both self-isolating and at home, you could probably introduce the track yourself.
Why not?
So, over to you.
Right, okay. Well, the song that I start the CD on, which is Caneuon Fy Nghalon, as you called it, Songs of My Heart, is a song that I learnt very, very early on in my singing career. I think I was about 5 or something when I sang this. And it's the Can We're In. It's a folk song, and you have to sing unaccompanied. So you're given the note, and you sing the verse, and at the end, they check to see how in tune you are. So that helped enormously to train your ear to stay in tune. So it's a song I've sung many, many times. And in fact, whenever I'm doing a concert now, I always open with this song, hence it's on my CD. The song, by the way, is Begailior Gwenith Gwyn. And the words are by Will Hopkin. And it's what they call Yr Hen Gylynen, which is an old Welsh air. So it's a true Welsh folk song. Begailior Gwenith Gwyn.
Wonderful. I'll see you back at Her Majesty's when they're allowing us back in.
Exactly. Look forward to it.
See you back.
Take care, Bach.
Ta-da.
Bye.
Ma fi'n begailior Gwenith Gwyn ag arall a'i fedi pam na ddau ar fawol rhyw dydd ar ôl a'i gilydd gwaith rwy'n dawel da fain i'r fach an lanach bainydd. Glanach wyt bob dydd, nai fi am fydd yn ffolach, mwyn ag a wnaeth dawedd, gwnaim drigaredd bellach. Cwnd a ben gwen o codraw, roi mi thlaw en dirion. Gwaith andafan wesbertaeth ro, mae allwedd clof yng nghalon. Trafodwr a môr yn hallt, a thraf o'n wallt yn tyfu, a thraf o'n nghalon anfam ron, mi fyddai'n ffyddlon i ti. Dawedim i'r gwir dan gel, a rod yn seld a tebion, pinai ma fi, nai arallan, sydd orau gan dy gael.